Hey everybody, Brendan Graber here alongside the wonderful Steve Butts.
Hey, Brendan.
And we're taking a look at the latest Batman gameplay trailer.
Yeah, the game's due out pretty soon, and we're getting
So close.
treated to this thing. I guess about 4 weeks out from the game's launch. Comes out June 23rd.
And you got to play it recently.
I got to play it recently.
Very
Yeah,
jealous.
I didn't play this exact sequence, but I got to spend time with combat and city exploration. I got to drive the Batmobile and got to do some of the third-person shooter tank stuff. So yeah, I guess we'll start off right here. I mean, this is obviously much more open world than any of the other games. Arkham City definitely had some of that. They're kind of doubling down on it here.
Check out this Visit Santa Prisca, where Bane was imprisoned.
Yeah.
Nice little call out there.
Yeah, there's tons of little references here. There's one to Blue Beetle. The Huntress kind of comes up, and they're mostly in signs. You see these signs around the city that kind of hint at that. What we're seeing here is, Batman can sort of swoop down to pick up speed. He can use his grapnel gun now to kind of launch himself.
Yeah, for like unending flying. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically turning into a flying superhero. The sequence that we're seeing here, the basic setup of the story is that the Scarecrow once again releases a fear toxin into Gotham. It always seems that Batman's villains have some sort of gas fetish. Like, everything's always about gas. But in this case, that fear toxin and the bomb Scarecrow's planted around has forced an evacuation of Gotham City. So now the only people in Gotham are the cops, the bad guys, and Batman.
And some EMS people who are trapped in Nature City.
Yeah, there's a couple of firefighters and stuff. So we're seeing here Batman swooping down on a place where a hostage is being held. We'll meet her in a minute. He does this sort of drop kick takedown, which is really
so
cool.
I think that orange marker is like hey, here's a cool takedown maneuver you can do. And right through the ceiling onto a guy.
Yeah, and they go right into combat. Combat's really, it's not changed. If you like the combat in the previous games, all that stuff is still here. There are a few additional toys and gadgets and a few more options Batman has.
Yeah, I noticed right there, his explosive gel is now a ranged explosion right to a guy's face, which I like more than the past ones, which would be put on the ground and hope no one hits you during that point.
Yeah, you can keep chaining your moves while you're attacking down foes, which you couldn't do in the previous game, if I remember
Also,
correctly.
that from behind, the guy was trying to grab him.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Smoke bomb looks a lot different too.
One thing we're not seeing here is in some of the freeform combat sequences, you can actually tag in some of the other heroes.
Oh, that new dual play mechanic.
Yeah, Nightwing or Robin or Catwoman can kind of come in and do kind of like in a fighting game, like you see in a game
Street Fighter game.
Yeah, Marvel versus Capcom or something like that. And those guys come in and like do cool finishing moves.
I thought this was interesting right here. I don't know if you've experienced this in the combat. Basically, he knocks a guy almost down, picks him back up in order to do a beatdown. So he didn't go for a ground takedown. He just picked him back up and started beating him again.
Yeah, there are some grabs and throws in this game now.
I like
that weren't present in the previous one. So here we see, who Batman's finally after. You see Scarecrow on the monitor screens behind this person. That figure's actually Poison Ivy.
I guess
she
she's
looks
not
a little
playing with
zombified.
the rest of the crowd.
Right. Yeah, as I said, the city's been evacuated, so only like the supervillains are there, and then just the regular rank and file criminals. And the expectation is that Scarecrow's kind of bringing everybody together to take on Batman, but there's some obvious tension here between him and Poison Ivy.
Yeah, but I guess for the most part, when we see the other villains, Scarecrow's done a lot better job at bringing them together.
Right.
Because without Joker, no one's like constantly double crossing and blowing people up.
Yeah.
But as we see, Poison Ivy not playing that game. He's got a dose of fear toxin in him.
The sequence we played, we got to fight some of the Penguin's henchmen, and we got to spend some time chasing Firefly through the streets.
Ooh, Firefly's back?
Firefly is definitely back, hence the firefighters who happen to be sort of held hostage. But yeah, this is Poison Ivy. You can see here, sort of making plants grow all around her. It's a really, really cool effect, despite kind of how, I think this sort of character design is a little bit weird for me. It's a little strange.
Yeah.
But I like the effect of all these sort of plants kind of growing around her, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of taken on from her days of being with Titan in the Arkham Asylum, where she was just a giant plant god.
Yeah. And I love this. Like, I'm not sure whose outfit is more ridiculous in this case, right? They're both pretty high in the running for it. Just weird strangeness. But I like that little comedic bit where Batman gets snapped up by the tendrils or the vines there, and you see this sort of a payoff here. She opens the doors, and surprise, surprise, who should be waiting for?
I'm sure at this point, I'm just so tired of your stuff.
Right. It reminds me of that scene in the original Superman movie where Superman flies away and then Clark Kent's at the door a few seconds later. It's kind of the same sort of thing. So now we're going to transition into a couple of Batman scenes, or Batmobile scenes. He puts her in a sort of.
So you can put civilians and supervillains in the little compartment.
Yeah, and the weird thing is like Batman's obviously not stupid, but he saw her just gas that guard who was holding her. Here we see Batman consulting Oracle. That's Barbara Gordon, Jim Gordon's daughter. She, couldn't join the police force, so she ends up doing this to kind of help him out in his adventures. Acts as sort of a guide for you in the game.
We will get to play her in a prequel DLC though as Squirrel. Very excited for that.
So you see here, this Gotham City is actually very crowded.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in it. I wasn't driving nearly this well when I was playing. There's this little sort of race line that tells you, hey, here's where you need to go to the objective that's that you're currently after. But yeah, there's lots of ramps. There's actually a fair bit of like platforming style and even puzzly gameplay to be found when you're driving around in the Batmobile.
I think he just blew up a car.
Yeah, he definitely did. And that's one thing we can talk about. I mean, just, in terms of being consistent to the character, this Batman seems a little bit more violent. You see here, he's blowing up these cars. These are drones.
They're drones. They're not people, everybody.
It's sort of one way they get around, including this gameplay. I will say, this part of the experience for me when I played the demo was the least satisfying. I like the melee combat. I like the city exploration. I like the Batmobile stuff. This third-person shooter gameplay, it didn't really seem to me like the game needed it. So yeah. I'm curious to see how it's integrated into the actual final
I do notice it does borrow from the whole combat. If you notice, every time he gets a shot, his combo meter goes up, as well as that icon on the left with the missiles. He shoots, it goes up to full, and then he's able to release a homing. Yeah, like 4 of them at a time.
Yeah,
which
and
is cool.
There's actually an even more powerful upgraded version of that.
Oh boy,
it is kind of neat. And what I do like about that though is you have the real clear cues for counters in the melee combat system, and here they have, you saw those sort of trails that were white at first and then turn red just as.
I can do this all the time. By the way, just do.
Yeah, the game is just 40 hours of this. It's just you doing Let's Plays of this over and over again. But yeah, you can see here he's back in the Batmobile. If you pause it right here, you can see that sign right above the Batmobile says Cord on it. Cord is a subsidiary of Wayne Enterprises. That's a reference to the Blue Beetle, I think. Ted Cord is another kind of gadgeteer type vigilante.
Nice catch.
Which could definitely be part of that. He also, I should mention, he was going to Panessa Studios. That was the previous objective. Panessa is actually the name of the mom of the Huntress, who's one of another Batman kind of female style vigilante.
These things everywhere. I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool to see these nods. I don't know if that means that these characters are going to get referenced in the game, but for fans of the comic book series who kind of know the backstory and the lineage of all these heroes, it's a nice little additional touch. So you see here, Batman finally brings Poison Ivy down to the prison. The guard seems super surprised that Batman's there, which is like
Batman.
I don't know what the orientation is like on the Gotham City.
He must be like every other day, just like here's another one, here's another one.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, like I said, I really like the combat that I played. I really like the open world exploration. I love the Batmobile stuff. There was one really cool puzzly sequence where you actually had to activate different switches to close and open gates and open up new routes. It's a challenge that the Riddler puts before you. Wasn't as big a fan of the third-person combat stuff, but super excited for this game to come out in a few weeks.
Yeah, I can't wait, especially like with an open world like this, all the stuff you can do on the side, all the challenge maps, all the Riddler things, like I really want to live in Gotham for a while, and I think I will be doing donuts in a parking lot for a good portion of it.
Awesome.
And of course, we got all our pre-order bonuses and our exclusives that'll be around for 6 months, depending on who you buy the game from. But yeah, that's our look at this latest trailer, and game's coming out soon, so be sure to keep it right here at IGN for everything that comes after.